So I think it just goes back to, following your gut, following your instinct. Like, if something's telling you to, like, whether, it's something, if you're a faith person, like a higher power, or just your gut instinct, to make a call, to knock on a door, to go get something, the extra step really is like the extra mile really pays off in so many ways. And I just think that when you become that person in whatever space you're in, the payoff will happen when people start coming to you. You become the gal or the guy,
All right, everyone. This is a new episode. I am here with Shannon Miller.
Hello. Good morning.
I'm dealing with so this is, the name of this podcast is I'll Call My Guy, but I've been getting a lot of pressure from all of my female colleagues.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean guy in the most gender-neutral way.
Right. Your person.
I call my gal or my person.
Yeah.
But guy is sort of the thing. And but yeah, so and you're one of my guys.
Yeah. I'm one of your gals. Yeah.
One of my gals. So so it's so you're obviously a professional newscaster. So it's great to have you here. I have had others on here too, and I and somewhat obsessed with the media and how you guys operate and what you do to bring news to people.
Yeah.
And also, and one of the things that we'll talk about in here is so I'll call my guys about relationships, right? How you build relationships with people. And I talked to one of your colleagues about like the importance of relationships in news, but also, and I like to explore this a little with you later on in the podcast, is the relationship that you build with the listener, with the viewer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people you may never meet, but you have this relationship with them. And I remember, and you could probably remember as a kid, like my newscaster was such an important part of my formative years.
Yeah.
Like I trusted that person to bring the news and to be a person that I can listen to, that can deliver both happy and sad news, and be able to go and trust them to be able to, that what they're telling me is the truth.
Right. Right.
And how that's developed. It's interesting to me because it's a relationship that you're building without meeting somebody.
Right. Oh yeah.
And so I want to just put a pin in that because that's to me is, normally you have a relationship. I see you, I can touch your hand, we can have lunch, we can talk on the phone, we can text. But this is, you're just putting it, it's a one-way, it's a relationship that's only one way.
Right, right. Yeah, when I meet viewers and they're always like, they're kind of hesitant at first to say hi. I'm like, no. I want to know who you are. I want to see who you are. I want to know like where you live because, I wake up in the middle of the night and I like stare into a box all day long, like a teleprompter. So all I see is that, I'm not looking at the thousands of homes that are, tuned in and watching us. So it is one of those things where you have to project this, authenticity through, technology. And, it's not easy. And it takes, a skill set. It takes being genuine, I think. In general.
But you can't learn that. That has to be in your heart.
Yeah, I think
will sense that if you're a phony, right?
Oh, yeah.
You can't advance and be a popular anchor,
right?
If people think you're a phony, right?
Viewers are smart. They know when you're, laughing fake or you're, like that sounds a little fake. And they know when things are genuine too. And the best moments that you have like on TV, with your cohorts are the ones that like just aren't even planned.
That's right.
So I think when you like try to be something or you're trying to project, like it kind of fails.
Well, what's interesting is have you noticed like over the course of several years, even with some of the reality shows, which aren't really reality, there's actually writers on those shows, but even in like other things, like it always would be sort of the third rail. You would never show like what happens behind the scenes. It was always very like you show up, you have to be behind the desk. They can't see that there's really like a guy holding something up. But now it seems that folks have realized that people want the authenticity, so they show those things. Like they show the guy, saying take one, or they show your producer sitting there, in jeans and a sweater, like, just holding something up for you because people, you don't hide that anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And I think people crave that authenticity.
Oh, yeah.
See, these are real people with real families just doing a job, and this is, it's a Broadway show, but there is a backstage and there's a person calling the shots.
Yeah, it's the show behind the show, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, in TV world, we call that like breaking the third wall or whatever. But yeah, I think there's a real appetite for that too. And that's where a lot of like, the social media type connection can come in, where you can like bring people behind like who they see on the box in their living room. And I think that's really important to show who you are, beyond just what you do.
Right. So it's critical, I think, right? It would be fair to say that even the I call it a beat reporter, but like just a sort of an entry level reporter, which you started as, just to build your following, you show yourself walking your dog, or you're in the community, you're having brunch at Sally and Bob, or whatever it is, because then people can relate to you, right? And that builds that relationship.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
and I think that's what's so important too. Like research shows, people have more trust in their local news anchors than like the cable network anchors. And a lot of it is because it's like we're in the same community. We're, walking the same streets. We're going to the same restaurants. And I think that's where, a local news anchor has that real advantage that maybe some of these network folks don't. It's like the things that impact you, be it whatever it is, fill in the blank, taxes or whatever, it also affect me, the one telling you about it.
Right. You just happen to, you have a job like every one of us. You just happen to be on TV.
Right. Yeah.
But as you know, like the TV medium is so powerful. Like even like, I've had some high profile cases, and just being on TV for something stupid, right? People associate, at least for my stuff, and I think probably with you as well, they associate exposure with competency. Right.
Yeah.
And look, and there is some truth to that, right? Because you could be, as a lawyer, like if you're getting a high profile case, it may be correlated to your competency. Like you wouldn't be thrust into something or playing at that level unless there is a core competency there.
Yeah. Why did this high profile criminal choose you? Alleged criminal
and it
choose you?
Right. So but there is some of that. So that does help. But also like it's a very powerful medium, because the people like walk up to you and they're like, hey, and. And as much of as an extrovert that I am and love attention, it also is sort of like, I'm not one of these people that goes to like all these galas and all these things. I'm not like that. I'm sort of below the radar.
Yeah.
And I'm an introvert. So I see the power in the medium. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
How did you you're a Texan, right?
I'm a Texan, right? Fifth gen Texan, what my parents say.
And did I ever ask you about this? What's that thing that you guys wear? The M. Gives an M.
Oh, we're not talking about like the denim tuxedo.
Thing.
Oh, the mum.
The mum.
Did we talk about that before?
I may have asked you, but I had a client one time. I was an investment banker and I was doing finance work years ago. And he's like, I got to go like pick up this mum from my thing. So what's this mum? He texts me this thing. I'm like, are you kidding me? What is this? It's like, it's like 6 feet long, right?
Yes. The homecoming mum.
Have you had it?
I've had it. I have multiple, and I'm sure my mom has them like stashed away somewhere.
Oh, it's a thing.
It's
right?
a thing.
It's only Texas, right?
It's only Texas. I was telling my coworkers about this the other day, and they were like, when you're, it's crazy.
Texas mom.
Texas mom. There's businesses that set up shop around homecoming.
This is like a huge deal.
So it all has to do with homecoming.
It's homecoming for high school.
Homecoming for high school, yes. So you...
At what age does this start? Like a senior? Or
this would be like freshmen through seniors.
So 14 to 18.
Yes. So you typically will go to the homecoming football game.
And you're a Dallas-Fort Worth person?
Dallas-Fort Worth, yes. So I went to Grapevine High School.
Okay.
And home of the Mustangs.
Go Mustangs.
And the only reason I, specifically know that is because the moms are all geared toward your high school colors. So we were red, white, and blue.
And are there competing mom provisioners in the town?
We only had, when I was in high school, there was this woman who would literally open up her home during homecoming
set up
time.
In a garage?
In her living room. She had,
and you just go
through, she had them all lined up on tables, like trinkets, teddy bears. So it starts with the mum flower, right? It's a fake.
That's the base of it.
Yes. But then they become huge where like they take up your whole body. They started just like, you put them up on the, top part of your shoulder here. And the mom has a little fake teddy bear in the middle. And the teddy bear, the teddy bear might be, if your date is a football player, the teddy bear might have on a football helmet. Or a baseball helmet, or he's holding a hockey stick. So that's the teddy bear part.
And only the women wear these.
Oh, no. The men have the ones they wear in their arms.
A mum for the man.
And it goes down to about here. Yeah.
Oh, God, I need this.
So, and I will say, as time went on throughout high school,
Oh, yeah, there it is. Let's look at
it. And that's like a moderate mom.
That's a moderate mom?
That's like
so many.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, I got to show this.
That would be a pretty standard mom. And those two look like they go to competing high schools because they've got different colors.
Oh, interesting. Look, she can you're like a mom.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It'd be great if you can come back and you can judge the mom.
Right. I'm a homecoming mom contest.
So keep going. So I got to learn.
Okay. So, and you can probably zoom in. You can see what sport he's involved based on her mom.
But why is she and you don't get fancied up, right? You just wear regular clothes?
I'm not sure why they're not dressed up.
Maybe they just put it on.
So you wear it to the school day, right? You wear it to class on that Friday. Probably a homecoming rally, pep rally that you go to as well. And then the game is that night. Sometimes they'll do like the homecoming dance. You don't wear the mums for that, but you wear the mum to the game, to class that day. And I think there was like some ban, like at some schools, because as years have gone on, the mums have become louder. Because people add like cowbells and stuff to them. They clink and they and
oh my gosh.
Again, just tack on the price each little like trinket
what's
you're adding.
Level mum?
At least several $100s
what?
for the girls. And these poor boys' moms and parents are the ones. Usually, it's the moms that are going to like pick out the homecoming mom because the boy could care less about what the mom has on it. But yeah, hundreds of dollars. I mean,
what a great business,
right?
And then and the people try to like make them more creative or even go over the top than the other person.
More over the top. And yeah, it's like every year, like who can wear the most.
And so this lady opens her house and you go through her living room.
You go through, you
place your order.
You place your order, pick out all the trinkets that you want, and then she'll give you, like if you want this price range, you pick out this many ribbons. Does she have
like her sister Judy comes over to help her assemble these
Something
things?
Like she's got an assembly line set up, and then you go like a couple days later and you pick up your mom. And
how was it delivered to you? Is it like on a hanger?
It is. I just thought it's on a hanger. And you just hang it up in the back of your car, and you eventually give it to your date.
And how is it? How do you affix it to your body? Is there like a necklace?
Well, the large ones they have become where you put them over your neck now. But originally, the smaller ones you could just pin. They had like little pins. You could do a safety pin and put them up here. But they've gotten so large that people have to like put them over their head and wear them all across their body.
So, and then the men have one as well.
The men have one. They wear those on their arms. And those guys could care less. Probably they're like whatever. Yeah.
But and then once is there a homecoming dance at some point?
There's the dance, yeah.
And you wear it to the dance too?
I don't think you wear it to the dance because that would probably get in the way.
Right.
But definitely to the game, and definitely to school that day.
And then you do pictures with the mom.
Oh yeah. Full stop pictures.
Wow!
I should have brought you some. I'll see if I can find you mine. Maybe you can text them to me
because I want to we'll see if we can post them. I was like the pictures like with we could do that, right?
Oh yeah,
we could put them. Yeah, that'd
be great.
Oh my god, to see this.
Oh yeah, and the senior
Shannon
year
with the mom.
Oh yeah, took over. And I will say the senior year they end up doing for senior year you do all white because it's the senior year.
All white mom.
Can you believe that?
And you lived in Oklahoma for a while, right?
I went to school
there, right? But you don't see that there.
I think they do mums there.
You think it's regional, or
I think it is probably as like a southern thing, but Texas definitely owns the homecoming mom.
Wow.
Market. Yeah.
Wow, what a cool
They should do a show on that.
And a show on mom like that. You should produce it.
Netflix idea.
No, right. It'd be like a show.
You heard it for here first.
The mom, like a documentary.
Mom Mania.
Mom Mania. Oh, and it's a huge deal. It's almost like those there was a show I used to watch I was obsessed with. It was like My Big Fat Gypsy Wedding or that. Like, and the gypsies have these dresses that are 150 pounds, and the woman is walking around, she could barely walk.
It's wild. It's crazy.
Do the people now have like lights? They light up?
Oh yeah, there's lights,
but that's an add-on.
And you got to put a little battery in it because if it's flashing too long, you probably have to do a battery change.
But the lady's like, if you want the lights, that's an extra $50.
It's going to be an extra, I mean, it's a tack on. Imagine these hardworking parents.
And they got to, barely making it.
Put that in your budget for $400
fall, for
right?
a mum.
Yeah.
And of course, you can't be without it because then everyone's going to be like, you don't have a mum? What is it?
And for what, right?
Right. Just throw it out, right? Oh my God.
So silly.
So so you're born in Texas?
Yes, born and raised in Texas. My whole family's from out there.
Were you an intact family?
Yes. Yeah. So my parents, I got a great story about them.
Tell me about
they went to the same high school together. My dad was like 3 years older than my mom. Broke her heart, graduated, went off to college. They both got married to separate people.
Oh, wow.
And first marriages last about the same amount of time. And then they both got divorces, and then they kept running into each other over and over again in Fort Worth. So they're born and raised in Fort Worth, so they kept running into each other at the Fort Worth stock show. That's a big thing down there.
That stock show. Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. So total Fort Worth tradition. The Colonial Golf Tournament.
I went to this amazing. I gotta stop for a second. I went to a wedding there, and there was an amazing burger place.
Oh,
but it was like a place.
Kincaid's.
Yes.
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 Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yep. Oh my God, it was so good.
Yep. Oh yeah,
it's like been there for like 100 years.
Oh yeah, I'm sure my parents have been there.
That's a delicious place.
Oh yeah, I hear all these names of these places because they're just like.
Yeah, I remember. And then of course you got to go to the school book depository.
Oh yes. Oh my gosh, that one.
Like, and all these idiots are running out in the road onto the X.
Oh, they want to like see it right there.
They have an X in the road where Kennedy was shot. Like the actual the first shot like hit him.
Yeah.
And so it's like here's the school book depository. You see people run out in the street and they're like taking a selfie.
It's wild.
And it's a main thoroughfare. Like cars are like zooming by and you're like, you idiot, what are you doing?
It's crazy.
So
it's wild.
So then they don't have any kids in their first marriage?
No kids in the first marriage.
So they then say, fine, that's a starter marge. They get together and then they have you. Any other siblings?
I'm the only. They tried to have some more after me, but they were like,
So only child.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's just, it's funny. People think that like, you must be like so spoiled with your parents' attention. Not with like, in like a physical, toys and stuff sense, but you also, it's like I tell my girlfriends with like, siblings and stuff. I'm like, but you're kind of like on your own. Like you don't, you don't have like someone to be like,
you can't call and be like, what's up with Mom? Like,
right. Yeah. But I love them to pieces.
And they're still there?
They're still there. They're on, oddly enough, my dad right now is in a, ankle to hip knee brace because the dog people that they are adopted a like 80-pound white lab who has started to do zoomies, and zoomies end with running into people.
Knock you over.
So broke my dad's tibia.
Oh, my tibia,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, so he's in recovery right now. So, being so far away, sometimes you're like, I want to be able to help, but I think we've got it under control.
And what kind of work did your folks do?
So my dad worked for First American Title Company, so helping with the Texas division, a lot of like home builders there in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which is just continues to blow up,
right.
And my mom worked in banking. She worked for universities. So
when you were young, who was your local newscaster? Like, did you watch news?
Yeah, I did. So my parents were a big part of that. My mom, especially, like she was, they always started their morning, newspapers. WFAA was like their WFAA, the ABC station there was like the powerhouse station when I was growing up, like the crown jewel of like.
And are you a Gen Zer?
I'm a millennial.
A millennial. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for the.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So you're a millennial. So, but your mom always had that on in the background.
Yeah, always. And they had like the Fort Worth Star Telegram was always delivered to their house as long as I can remember, and they always had it, on their coffee table. So news for me was like really like
you saw your
an
parents,
important thing. It's
now which news would they watch? Like the 5 or like with the 6:30?
I'm trying to think. It was always. I mean, it was on in the morning. It was on. They had like a TV in their bathroom area. They were getting ready in the morning. They're both working parents. They were always watching TV before they had on the door. Always in the morning, and usually like at night.
And so because I think in the morning, right, it goes local, and then they do a cutaway for like the national. If you watch like Today Show, they cut back to the local, right?
Yep. Yeah, we do and now we do like cut-ins during the Today Show, and so I always knew it was really important. And then there was another thing I was thinking about this when I was thinking about talking to you about. Sometimes you kind of reflect on like how did I get to where I am. Yeah. But there's this great radio show host in the South, and people who are from that area will know Kid Craddock in the morning was like a huge morning
radio
show.
Was a very important medium.
And that's like, I think where I got like.
Was it a morning zoo or was he a news guy?
It was a morning there was like a team of
like a zoo,
Kelly Raspberry,
right.
Oh yeah, and so like
making noises.
Yeah, and you like I remember as a kid like getting ready for school. That's what everyone did.
Your mom had that on, or dad had it on the car.
On the car, so it was on the way to school. So before I could drive, it's there was something always on. I feel like in the background, like informing. Like I knew that being informed was important, whether I knew that's what they were trying to enforce or
whatever. Your parents
teach,
just like to be informed And so, so you had parents that was a very much a part of their lives.
Yeah.
It's sort of interesting now how it changes because, we watch, I think sometimes in the background there's maybe the Today Show or something in the morning, but, our kid, we get a lot of our news from the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, we'll watch clips or I'll read stuff, but our kids do know the local news, like, because we live right near NBC 30,
right.
We get off and they're like, the little one says, "That's NBC 30. Yes. Shannon works there."
And I loved having them when they came to visit.
The little one now is old enough, so she wants to see it. Because every time she gets up, she says, "Your friend works there." I said, "Yeah, she's there."
She was so cute, and we had that picture. We took a picture.
Well, that was Ruby. You haven't met the little one.
Oh no, I haven't.
The little one's almost 5.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
I'll show you a
Yeah.
picture.
Okay.
She is a little doll. So she's obsessed. But yeah, so they they know the news and they know that we get the weather from the news is important and. So you see all that. So you see all that, and then you graduate, and then you go right to college?
Yeah, I went to, so I knew where I wanted to go, and I wish I could say it was purely for journalistic purposes. Great journalism school, by the way. Like, we had a brand new building.
Oh, sure.
But I was really sold when I went to my first Oklahoma football game.
Oh, right.
So
That's something that's...
I was like, this seems cool. So it was a little bit, in the South, it's like the Sooners. Yeah.
Right. What is a Sooner? Do we know?
So when the land rush happened, it was like the boomers were the ones that came, that there was like a timeline. They were supposed to go for the land rush or whatever. So the ones that broke the rules were the Sooners. Yes.
I would know this.
Right.
Wow,
so,
what a cool thing.
Yeah. So, like growing up in the South, it's like you pick for education, but you also are like, okay, like what kind of sports program do they have? Like, what are my Saturdays going to look like? Right.
And football was a big deal.
A huge deal. And it culturally I mean, people will choose.
And it's not just for the game. It's also for like you sit there, the camaraderie.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And it's something too that you can cheer on for the rest of your life. Like, not just those 4 years. So every time there's like a great, cool, like standout athlete or like a great, game, it's like you feel like you're a part of something. So
you go there, you're like, I want this football, but they also have a great journalism school.
Yeah. Yeah. So I knew going into school that that's what I wanted to do, which is funny because like, there was never like this aha moment, like, I want to be in TV news. It just kind of evolved, I guess. And I kind of knew going in that that's what I wanted to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
So are you a journalism major?
Yes. So I've got a journalism major. Our program is a really, the way I think that it worked is really strong as far as people who are aspiring to be in journalism. It was like heavy print-based first, which is, to me, the best journalists, the ones that dig the deepest, I still think, are a lot of the print journalists.
For sure.
So to start on that track, I think really like set me up for success and like really pushed me. There was one course that like we had to write for the school newspaper, and it was so difficult that I decided, I was like, I'm going to take it during the summer because I can't do everything else and write for the school newspaper. And anyway, I remember I got my first like goose egg 0 on an assignment because one factual error, what it was, a number or a name, or I can't remember what it was.
The story's ruined.
It's done. And I still remember that now. When I go on, when I'm reading, I'm very, very, we've got to be accurate, And so that's kind of like the first, I always tell that story to like our younger, like interns or like producers. I'm like, I remember my first goose egg 0, like big red mark.
Well, but it left an impression, right?
It did.
You got to get this right.
That's what's so important, is that I think people value the truth, as much as there's other voices out there, so many other voices out there now. It's like, I still think there's value in that.
Well, and there's a line that's blurred between, there's certain, people on the news that they're on the cable channels, that they're not just delivering the news. They're not journalists. It's a combination of entertainment and journalism. And so, and we know that there's certain network, just had to pay out $800 million in a defamation. Like, you got to be very careful. And because people blur the line, like, your job is to sort of be objective and accurate and deliver it, as opposed to, and there's a place for entertainment in part of that too, journalism and political stuff. There's a place for that. Yeah. But the problem is when people don't understand that, like, well, wait a second, that person is a partisan, and that's what they're doing. Like, they're not giving you objective anything. Yeah. But I can turn on Shannon. I know she's just going to tell me what she's observed and done, and of course we're human beings, and as you know, you have to, we have our own biases and filters. But you guys are trained to say, no, I have to deliver this, and I'm just going to deliver what it is, and then the public can make and draw conclusions from that.
That's right. And I always, one thing, again, I'm a visual person, is I always try to think of, like, if I'm carrying 2 buckets of water, those 2 buckets have to have the same amount of water in it. So if there's 2 different sides or voices, I've got to be able to have the same amount of water in both of them. The scales have to be equal.
Because there's and we find that in court too. People will come in, and this is something that how it appears to our practice too. Somebody will come in, and a client there's certain lawyers that, even if they're more seasoned lawyers, they still like believe their client's shit completely. Yeah. And I always say, listen, I'll listen to you. Right. But you may not even realize it. You may not be deceiving me intentionally. Yeah. You are so angry, you're so emotional, you're so scared that everything is filtering through all of that. And so what you're telling me, you may be leaving out something, not because you're trying to deceive me, it's because it hurts too much and your unconscious won't let you do it. Yeah. So then I go run to the mat for you and I go to court and hit a brick wall. I'm like, that's not what do you.
Yeah.
So you got to be very careful, especially in those situations, and in your field too, because somebody may have an agenda and they may want to be using you to further that agenda. So it's sort of like there's his story and her story, and the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Absolutely.
So you can report on what both sides say.
Absolutely.
Because, and of course for us, that's what courts do. They figure out kind of who's more credible.
Yes.
But it's very tricky because, and I could see how that with you especially has to be very careful because my job is to advocate, but I'm also getting a story, and I can see if you were receiving a story too, you were saying, okay, like, all right, I heard you, and I'm going to go check the records, and I'm going to go talk to this person. Then say, okay, like I can report that not as fact, but like this person's reporting this. So one of the things that I've learned to do with when I call the other lawyer, maybe if somebody comes to me, is I say, my client Shannon is reporting this. I don't say, your client did this and this, because I don't know if you're full of shit. I have no idea. I don't know if you're angry. So that's why I always say, she's reporting this. Could you check with your client to see if he has a different story?
Right. Yeah. I mean, a news tip is a news tip. That's it. You know, you've got to verify it. You've got to check it. And I always go back to sourcing, you know, who says what. If I'm hearing something, I can't really necessarily, you can't give me the rumor mill or gossip. And if you're willing to go on the record and tell me as a, source, that XYZ is happening, then let's talk, but until then, it's just a news tip,
Right, but but I don't want to push people up. People love those too, because somebody can say, listen, I got to talk to you on background here. This is what's happening. I can't be involved, but here's the people you might want to talk to by.
Oh yeah.
That's great stuff too, right?
It is. And I have a lot of stories that have come from just, people knowing, giving me, enough information that I needed to do the work that I can do.
So here you go. I can't be involved, but you want to look into this.
Right.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Do you still get those?
Oh yeah, I do. And, you think about some of like your big wins and, you think about kind of like the gets of, journalism and TV news. And, I think about, I was thinking about your podcast, the name of it. And like, I got a guy, I got a girl, you always want to be that person that people feel if they have something that they think needs attention or it needs a voice, that you want to be that person, that they want to go to. And that doesn't come overnight. It comes with, experience and with owning big stories and being the person, on some of the bigger cases that I've worked on, it's like, okay, I got to call Shannon because, there's a massive police search that's about to happen and she needs to be in place for that, So.
Well, right. But you've also, my guess is being here like a while now, you have a guy, right? You have a person, you don't have to acknowledge any of this, but at the state police or whatever, that you can text and be like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
And the person will say, hey, whatever. And that person may never even see the light of day or be in any of your news things, but it's somebody that likes you, you have a relationship with, and that person will say, yeah, Shannon, this is legit. Like, keep digging. And by the way, meet us. You should show up at this place.
Right.
Bye.
Right. Yes.
Right. That's like, and as you know, right? I mean, I didn't study journalism, but I'm a sentient, like, interested person. I mean, what the news does is sheds light, disinfectant on situations.
That's right.
And the free press that we have, especially in the United States, is like the most important thing that we have, because you guys can change lives. You can move governments.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the most famous one is the Watergate one, right? I mean, that's like the most famous of them. But but just in this local sense, like expose corruption, expose poverty, or plant things that keep people in poverty, or bad. Or corrupt politicians.
Right.
If we didn't have that, if the press didn't have that right, how much stuff wouldn't come to light?
Yeah. And that's why you do it, right? I think a lot of us that went through the full, like, in TV news has really changed, like the track of like, even getting to a market like this is different. Years ago, it was like, okay, you've got to work in 3 or 4 different TV markets before you come here. But I think, for those of us who really are like the true blue journalists that really like got into it for, those reasons, it's like you really hope that people still hold on to that, in this day and age. And that's why we still do it. It's like you get those stories that you're like, okay, I helped create, I exposed something that needed to had some light shed on it. I've created change. And it's not me that's created change. It's just being the vessel to put information out there.
Yeah, but you still have to do the work, right?
Yeah.
You have to ferret it out, right? It doesn't just somebody just hand you a package and say, here you go, right? You have to like talk to the people, look them in the eye, You have to walk the scene, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
oh yeah.
I love that. When you get out of journalism school, do you get a job at a local market right away?
Yeah, I did. Well, no, not
Or
right
you
away.
intern?
So, so I'd done some internships in college, which is kind of the,
That's what you do, right?
your secret sauce to like even have anyone look at you.
Right, because then you see you, like, then you could, the production folks are there, they see you,
Right.
they're like, oh, like,
Yeah.
maybe come work with us after,
Yes,
you could just
yeah.
be a beat reporter, or whatever.
Oh yeah. I had a really cool internship
Where was that?
at CBS Sunday Morning. That was my
Oh, in New
summer
York?
before my
Oh
senior
my God,
year.
that's
That one
like
was
the best of the best.
insane. Yeah, that was like
That's a great
high in the
show.
sky.
That's,
yes.
by the way, one of the best television shows, I think, in existence
Yeah,
right now, right?
it is.
It still is.
It's held, the test of time, and it's just amazing
Good journalism.
storytelling.
It's
yeah,
such good journalism.
it's so cool. And there was only 2 of us for that summer, so it was kind of like the crown jewel of the intern program
in the country. I would say getting there.
Yeah, it was so cool. And like, I remember one of my favorite stories from that was like the producer was like, "Hey, Anthony Mason's going to be doing a profile piece on this upcoming." A British singer, they're making a transition over to like the US, meet us at Columbia Records, such and such time. We're going to do the shoot there, whatever. And I was like geeking out because I love like, big production, like interviews, sit down interview stuff. And like, oh, by the way, and this was like back in the day when like CDs were still around. Yeah. Here's her CD. So I like plug it in like at my laptop at like my little place I was staying in at the time that summer. And I turn it on. I was like, oh my gosh.
Who is it?
It was Adele.
Oh, Adele.
Yeah. So,
and did you
busting
know
out. Yeah.
Oh,
like this Chasing Pavements was like the song she was trying to bring over to the US. So like we spent the whole day with her. She was
I heard she's fantastic.
She's so great.
Right.
She was like over like looking for apartments. We like shopped in like Brooklyn with her for like a new place, and she was like just so laid back and cool. And then we were like at Columbia Records with her, and God only knows which executives, and literally like a room this big, like, and she's like doing a little like acoustic version of Chasing Pavements. And then, so that was like the moment of like the intern, summer.
This is my thing.
I'm like, I don't think it gets much better than this. And then we did another shoot.
And is that an unpaid internship?
Unpaid.
Oh my God, right.
We got a little like lunch per diem.
Right,
yeah.
but you got to do it.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Right.
Like
so mom and dad are paying.
Oh yeah. In TV news,
you don't make
parents have to, you got to like pay basically to get experience. I don't think a lot of people realize like it's so competitive. Even from the internship perspective. But, and I was fortunate enough to be in a position where, I was able to do that. And I realized not everyone has that.
That's hard, yeah.
So I remember the other big story was Tracy Smith was, they're like, okay, we're going to meet this other cool artist. It was Jeff Koons, who's like, I'm not a huge, art person, but like later on I was like, oh, like that was kind of a big, art person in the art world. So that was a cool experience. But that is the highest level. So realistically, I went and did internships at Oklahoma City, because no one starts at CBS Sunday Morning.
Of course, you started locally.
So on my weekends, I was doing, going to local stations in Oklahoma City. When I was home in Dallas, I was like following one of my mentors, another Oklahoma guy, Steve Pickett, around. Like during spring break and Christmas, like I was like in the news van with them. Like that's what I wanted to do during my time off. Just because I was so like drawn to it. I just couldn't get enough of it. So, even like in one of like his reference letters, I think he wrote me later on, he's like, when most college kids are off like hitting the ski slopes, this chick's in like, back in the news van and like downtown Dallas, doing God only knows what story.
You put a package together.
Yeah, I was trying to. I was still very, very green there on my, package producing. But so I did that. And then, thought I, had everything set up, ready, queued up, ready to go, ready to launch. And I graduated in 2009, which is like, just coming off of like the 2008 crisis and all that. So the TV news industry is laying off people left and right, especially these smaller market stations. So now I'm in this pool of people who have been, in the business for like a year, and I'm competing with them. So as one does when they're right out of journalism school, you send out, and back then we were sending out literal DVDs. Right. So I made friends with the postmaster, post office there. my parents' town.
Right, because you couldn't even like Dropbox it to them.
No, yeah. No. This is like,
yeah.
It seems so like, I'm sure people, the younger generation, the Gen Zers who listen to this was like, what, you mailed your real?
You don't even know what a mixtape or a mixed DVD is. Like today I like worked out to a special, like I did a power ballad workout.
Yeah.
And so my friend's like, how was it? I just texted her the whole playlist.
I love that.
Whereas before I'd have to spend all day making a tape.
Right.
And I'd be like, here's the tape. And
yeah.
like, all right, I'm going to listen to it.
Oh, yeah. But that was kind of like.
That was endearing.
Remember when you write the name of the song out? Yeah. I mean, those were the days.
Those were the days.
All right. Yeah. They weren't the days, though, when I was like trying to like land a job.
So you're sending these things out to everywhere. And then you got to get the person to open it up and pop it in.
And then I would drive to like, and then I would drive to all the local TV markets, like in driving distance.
And knock on the door.
Hey, I've got a friend that I'm seeing in town. I had a lot of cousins everywhere. Hey, I got a cousin that I'm seeing.
I'd love to give you this.
And I'm sure they knew what I was up to. But so it's funny. My mom was like, look, you're burning yourself out, trying to, here I was like, I thought I did everything right, and here it is, in
your early 20s.
Yeah, 22. I've got a degree and no job lined up. And so living back with my parents and, my mom's like, look, you're going to make yourself crazy if you just sit in here and you're just, it's like watching water boil, right? Like it's going to take forever. I need you to do, like, I'm going to say, like, let's do something. I don't care if it's volunteering. I don't care if it's like a side job, something to like get out of this space. You can still work on it as hard as you are, but you've got to move. Like, we got to get you out of this space. So I went back and started like waiting tables at the restaurant that I worked at throughout high school. And it was a few weeks in, and there was like, someone had called out, so I had to like stay later.
Right.
And this man walks in. He's like, it wasn't busy that night, and he was waiting for his wife. He's like, yeah, we're just making small talk, and this kind of goes back to like just I don't know, just those kind of moments in life where you're like, you're just being you, and it's finding those moments just to like be real with people, and just, you never know what sort of like conversation you strike up with people, like where it can land you. So I'm like kind of spilling my guts to this guy, like, here I am, like, back at my, hometown
journalism degree.
I'm trying to, I've been trying to get a job all over. He's like, I've been, driven here, whatever. He's like, oh, and he listened. He's like, that's funny. You should mention that because I own a broadcasting company. And I'm like, this is Dallas. This could be, I don't know who this guy could be, or whatever. It turned out to be Perry Sook, who owns Nexstar Broadcasting Group, which is one of the largest TV stations for locally owned TV stations in the country. And I had actually interviewed at his, gone to Fayetteville, Arkansas to visit a friend, and had met with the news director. They had a reporter position open, but like, again, the needle just wasn't moving. I'd reached out to like the main anchor who was no Yuga. I'm like, we need something like to move. And so the only other interview that I had gotten like in that time period right out of school was for a job in McAllen, Texas, which is right on like the Texas-Mexico border. So like, this is my only like opportunity where a news director called me. She saw something. So I was actually flying out the next day for that interview. And so I did the interview. I got the job offer from her. And within like, I don't even know, like I got back to my hotel that night and I get a call from the news director at the Fayetteville, Arkansas station. He's like, I heard you met our CEO. And we would like to offer you a job.
What?
So after waiting, however many months, May to October, I got my first two TV news job offers within 24
and you went
hours.
To Fayetteville?
And I went to Fayetteville. I just felt like it was more of like a, ordained kind of thing.
It is ordained, and the guy like went out of his way for you. So the other one just happened. But just the CEO called for you. You're like, I can't screw the guy over now.
Yeah. So I felt like, as I think about sometimes you're like, oh, these life choices, right? Like, like, should I have gone to?
I want to just take a step back.
Yeah.
Something that struck me about what you did. So, at 22, you don't know shit, right?
Right.
Like,
you don't.
Right, you don't. And
but, you think you do.
But yet you had the reporters sort of like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but you had that sort of like, I'm gonna chase down the story, and the story is your job, right?
Right.
You're driving places, you're making up a ruse to get in, to get it. That's like it's almost like it's like fate almost, like, because that's what a reporter does. They stick to it. They chase down leads, and then they produce something. Right. And that's what you were doing. It's sort of interesting to me. Like, you were already, like, to me, if I found out, if you came to me, like, and I'm sitting in there and I'm what's the head of the station called? The news director, right? Yep. And you say to me, like, look, I'm not gonna lie to you, I drove here. I'm like hungry. I'd be like, I hire you just on that,
right?
Because I'm like, I could teach you the other stuff.
That's right.
But you can't teach that.
Work ethic. And
you can't teach it.
You can't. And either you have it or you don't. And it really, like,
well, the longer you're hungry. Like, you're going to drive 2 hours, 3 hours to deliver a thing. Like, that's like, somebody does that. Like, that's why I love people that do that. They like, and I know it's harder to do these days because people be like, you just got to go, like my grandpa said, you got to go knock on the door. I'm like, people think you're a creep at some point, right? Because there's this fine line between, like, are you mentally ill?
Right.
Or are you, like, you have an insane work ethic and you'll stop at nothing.
Oh, yeah.
And you got to size the person up, because if somebody just showed up like that, you'd be like, this is kind of a stalker. Or is he just, like, so hungry for the job that we want him? So you have to balance that. But I could see how that worked for you. So what is the trajectory when you do, like, the lowest entry level job? Is it a beat reporter on the weekend?
Lucky enough, I was working Monday through Friday. Wow. So it was a general assignment reporter.
But usually you don't get that.
But typically you're going to be starting, and I have worked weekends. I worked weekends at one point for 7 years between this
but weekends is the entry level.
Typically, If you're like entry, I mean, if you're lucky enough that they feel like you've risen to a Monday through Friday reporter that they want on their 5 and 6 o'clock shows, they'll put you on the Monday through Friday beat.
Some time.
But you should go into it knowing that you're probably going to be working weekends or morning,
early morning.
or early morning. Yeah. So I was lucky enough. Now that I think about it, I feel like Fayetteville, Arkansas was like a blip, kind of on the radar. Although I did cover my biggest, like, severe weather story there, the Joplin tornado. That was
like an F5.
Yes, it is still, I think, one of the most devastating. That's the
finger of God, they call it. You know about that?
It was wild.
You look at this thing and you're like, we're all dead.
It's crazy. Yeah, I remember even, like, because the tornado season is so active, we were still there on the ground, like, for a few days, and, like, the next night or the night after, there was another tornado warning. We're, like, rushing to the nearest hospital to, like, get in to, like, a hallway to, like, hide, and, like, so that was, like, my first taste of, like, severe weather coverage. But so then I go from Fayetteville, Arkansas to Springfield, Missouri, and I got my anchor chops there for the first time. So morning anchoring is where I started.
And that's sort of the next level. But is it usually going from to weekday or weekend, or it depends?
It depends. So if you're going from, like, a reporter to more of an anchor role, there's a big chance that you're probably going to start on, the weekends first. They're not going to, throw you on Monday through Friday. I was lucky enough that I'd gotten some, anchor fill-in opportunities. That was another thing. I'm always like, okay, if anyone's out, I'm in. I don't care when it is. I'm there. I did it on, holidays.
So they knew that. Oh, you could sub in and. Yeah, you're a great understudy. You could just take it over.
just jump in.
So you got a Monday through Friday gig?
Monday through Friday anchor gig, which was
in Springfield.
In Springfield, but there's a lot of Springfields, by the way, across the country.
Well, is the one from The Simpsons Springfield, Missouri?
I think it is. I remember like someone telling me that.
I think it is.
My agent calls it Spring Patch because it was like it's a smaller market. But I had made some of like my best. I was on the show with like male co-anchor and a male meteorologist who are still like great friends to this day. They're all in different parts of the country now, but like you think back on those times, it's like if you got to wake up at like 2 or something in the morning, like you want to make sure it's like with people that you like.
If you have the news comes on at 5, right? Mm-hmm. Typically. So if you ever do mornings here?
Yeah, so I'm now on mornings full time here, and so I'm on from 4:30 to 7 a.m. every morning.
Wait, so what time are you awake?
Okay, I have several alarms. The first one goes off at 2:30, 2:45, and then 3.
Are you allowed to fight the 2:30 one?
Oh, I do.
I fight at 2:30.
Whether I realize it or not, I'm snoozing till like about 3 a.m. So
all right. So, but that's sort of to just keep you going, and then by 3, and then you get makeup at your house.
All I do is like the basics at my house. So like washing my face, brushing my teeth, getting dressed,
and get out,
and then get out. And I'm at the station by 3:30.
And then you have a half hour to put your face on and.
Yes. Yep. So I jump in the scripts and read as much as I can. But again, it's like,
somebody overnight's already prepared.
You've got, team of producers, which God bless them. They're in at like 10, 11 o'clock at night, writing up the shows. I think a lot of people just don't realize
there's a lot of work being done.
There's a lot of behind the scenes work and they don't get enough credit.
And that's 5 days a week?
5 days a week. Yeah. Oh yeah. So today I got 9 hours of sleep last night, which is like, I'm like, I can do everything. I can do it all. Yeah.
Wow, so you're like, so what time, you were in bed by like 7:30?
If I'm in good, I've been trying
how long have you, what's the latest you pushed it on a weekday?
Oh my gosh.
Like 11?
No, that would be like,
kill you.
we're not making it. 5 hours is like
the absolute minimum.
Anything less than that, you're like teetering on like, it might be scary to drive home afterward just because you're so like delirious at that point.
But what is the thinking like? Are people watching the news at 4 a.m?
You'd be surprised.
Really?
There's a lot of like shift workers.
Oh.
It's funny, our audience kind of changes throughout the morning. So you got, some people who, are early risers. Some people choose, which I'm always so impressed to get up that early. I get paid to get up that early, but other people choose on their own to get up that time. And then as the morning progresses, you got people who've got kids who are trying to get them out of school. So you've got like, we always call it like the breakfast crowd. Like they're usually like making breakfast and listening to us at the same time.
And it's you, and you have an anchor in the morning?
Yeah, Heidi Voigt is my co-anchor.
Oh, Heidi, okay.
And then Bob Maxon is our meteorologist.
Bob Maxon.
Yeah.
He's been doing this 100 years,
oh, yeah.
hasn't he?
I love them both to pieces.
But is for a while in the Connecticut market, every meteorologist was gay. But Bob's not gay. Right?
When I came here, I didn't.
Right? Remember,
I didn't know. Yeah,
three stations. I'm like, what's in the water here?
Yeah,
and it's great because, like, you want your meteorologist to sort of have a certain vibe to them.
Yeah,
But, obviously Scott Haney's been doing this forever, and then there was Garrett Argianis, and then Ryan Hanrahan.
Yes,
right.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, what's going on? Like
yes,
which is great. Listen, God bless him, but it's just like it was just so funny how it just in Connecticut it just happened to be the meteorologist.
Yeah, it's funny when you move across the country long enough. It's like you just realize different, the differences are across the country. I think it's great. It's funny because I've got a male meteorologist who was someone that I worked with for a very long time here, and he is just an absolute treasure. And we had a lot of fun, probably too much fun, the two of us together. Yeah.
Where was that in a different market?
That was here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Darren Sweeney. He's
Where's he
my brother to me. He's still on the weekends. So I started on the weekends here and eventually moved Monday through Friday. But I was mostly on the weekends here for a really, for most of my time.
So it's you and Heidi and then Bob Maxim every morning. And what time is it you finished?
We're off air at 7 a.m. and then we do the Today Show cut-ins throughout the morning. And then we are done off the clock at like 11:30. And that's like nap time at that point.
So you go to nap?
I try. Yes, there's like two teams on the morning shift. There's like team no nap and team nap. And
you could leave at 11. You're allowed to leave.
Yes, right? Yeah. So you can go home, and depending on the day, like just depending on what kind of sleep you got the night before. I used to be an epic napper, but lately it's like I try.
And then you're like, no.
And get like maybe like a half hour in, but
sometimes that half hour power nap is nice.
Yeah.
Wow. So and so you're now. Do you still do any? Like if a story came to you, do you still do any reporting?
I do. Yeah, I do a lot of investigative reporting. Anytime there's something that's like really like speaks to me. Obviously, the Jennifer Dulos case was like the case that I really tried to own.
Oh, yeah, you're all over Dateline and all that.
Yeah. So and there, arguably won't be a more bigger case here.
Oh, yeah,
that one had such far reach and just like had so many people that it spoke to. But any big story like that, I'm always looking for. I'm not looking. Obviously, we never look for terrible things to happen because that was such a terrible story. But any opportunity to get to the truth of the why, there's so much mystery still surrounding that story that people just couldn't get enough of.
Right. So you still have the opportunity to do that, and then what about and so but that you'd have to almost find that, and then when did you do a special or something to like?
Yeah. So when the Michelle Troconis trial, which just wrapped up, was happening for 2 months earlier this year, we did something totally new, which again, I told you, I'm loving the whole like new media space. So the big thing right now in TV news is that a lot of the platform from which we are watching is changing. I don't know if you have like a YouTube TV or, but regular cable is going, people are turning more to streaming now. So we took the opportunity with the trial, which you'd love to us being in the trial world. We were like, there's enough interest here where we think that people are really going to want to watch the trial from start to finish. There's other networks that are specific to like true crime, like long crime, they'll stream entire trials from like start to finish. But we were like, let's put the trial, all day long on our streaming platforms where people can tune in at any point. And we did this on our website as well. And then what we ended up doing every day was a half-hour recap show of what happened the day before. So like the, top witness statements, the evidence that was brought up. We brought in experts to, from the legal world, from, law enforcement to kind of like give us, debrief it all. But anyway, we didn't know how well it would do because it had been, nearly 5 years since Jennifer Dulas disappeared. So, and you got to think too, we had COVID in between all this. It's like, so was there still an interest there? So we did it for like a week. And we're like, okay, let's see like, how the numbers pop. Like, what do the numbers show? So we were simultaneously putting it on streaming. And then we were also clipping each episode and putting them on YouTube. The YouTube numbers were like astronomical. It was like, ended up being between like the 2 months that we ended up doing it, 30 episodes, there were like more than 1 million views on YouTube. And then on the streaming platform, there was like nearly 9 million minutes watched. So it was like, it's such a new space that we're playing in. And, with the right compelling content and the stories that are, have such tremendous value and importance to not only this community, there was national interest in the story too. It really was neat to see how something, that's compelling to me as a journalist was also interesting to viewers too. So, and
that's one of the ways, right, that you could differentiate yourself to one of your competing networks, right? Because otherwise, all things being equal, I don't know. I guess it's personality driven, or maybe in your family, we're an ABC family or NBC, but now it's you have the ability to gain new viewers to say, hey, like we're doing something different and interesting, and I want you to give us your attention, and maybe you looked at a competing network before. We want. I mean, do you guys still rely on Nielsen and all that?
We do.
Yeah,
it's becoming still. It's like. There's still, I think we're still like diary markets. I don't even know. I think I got like something in the mail, like my $1 or $2 or whatever it is. They send you. Can you fill out your, diary? Which is funny. They teach you about that in journalism school, and you don't realize like later on how important, the diaries are.
Because you represent like 100,000 people or something.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. And then like,
but now they don't do that anymore. Now they just. You let them have access to your stuff.
Yeah, right? So like ComScore's the other big competitor right now where they can like dip into your actual like box. And I don't really know how it works in like the streaming world yet because the measurement like mechanism is still so
But you
new.
know though, everything you do online is completely tracked. Everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so like they probably have that already. Because there's the cookies and I mean there's...
Oh yeah. Everything we do is, it's you know this as a lawyer.
Oh my God, everything is. My friend, I represent a lot of detectives, cops, and they're like, "Oh, your phone is literally everything, everything in there, and everything you do." And then they use it to, like, I was talking to some social media people, and he's like, "We can actually now, like, target you through your like Hulu or Netflix account. Like, we could drop an ad.
Oh yeah,
because you were searching for something. That's why people think their phone's listening to them. It's not. You were on there doing something, and they then can drop an ad into your, one of your while you're streaming of something you were looking for to like try to get you to buy it.
It's crazy. It's absolutely wild.
They've got all these things, so you can get. I think they probably have better metrics. Of what people are doing and watching.
Yeah, and that's what our sales team, they're always on top of that.
Because they want the new stuff. Because they want to bring viewers over, right? Because eyes and views is what brings...
Exactly, and we've got like the Olympics coming up, and that's always like a huge opportunity.
And the money is made, obviously, by revenue, right? By ad revenue. Right,
I mean, right.
That's still a big thing.
I think like, as the longer that I'm in the news business, I really start to try to learn like the business platform side of it too. Because it's like, it's one thing to be like the content creator, but I think it's really important for people to understand that it's a business. It's a mechanism for businesses to advertise, to generate. But it's obviously, number one, storytelling is my, bread and butter of what I do. But I think it's really important for people to understand in a day and age when, we've seen what's happened to newspapers, and it's
oh my gosh, they're gutted.
You gotta remember that content is key, and that really comes back to the basics, which is great storytelling, great journalism. Bring the content, and the eyeballs will come.
Right. It's so funny too, and I'm thinking about then just to shift gears a little bit because yes, you're right. The newspapers are being gutted, and it's different than being like a Logan Paul where you're creating content as opposed to you have to deal with the content. You have to sort of curate it and bring it to
Mm-hmm.
the people, right? Because you're not making, I mean, you could create content in the sense, but you're always going to be bringing people on that are going to weigh in on the content that the world creates.
Right.
Right. You're not
Yeah.
making content out of the thin air, right?
Right.
You're just saying, okay, there's something over there. There's a homeless person that's always there. We want to know their story.
Yeah.
Right. You're not going to like create that. Like
Right.
you're going to like tell that story.
Yeah. I think it comes from a real, like, just being a natural observer. That's like one of the things that I, again, tell like younger folks getting into it. It's like, do you realize what's happening around you? Like,
Curious,
are you, when you're driving, are you looking, is there more that you're taking in than just like, I'm listening to my podcast or I'm focused on like what I'm, what else I have going on that day. But it's like, stop and look around. And whether that's like, that's another thing, like coming back to like what makes you successful and what works and how you meet people and how you connect. It's just being an observer. And then going back to like the compelling content conversation, it's like, if it's interesting, I'm not saying that what I'm interested in, everyone is interested in, but I think I have a good gauge for what people could be interested in. And I think
that's what a producer does, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think people are going to like this.
Right.
Like, this is great. Like,
Right.
keep going.
Yeah. And like this, like what you're doing here, it's
yeah.
like people want to hear, like there was an idea you probably had that's like, I have so many cool contacts.
Yeah.
Why keep them to myself, right?
And I want to expose people to people, but also sort of bring life to them and how this, sort of, again, show the behind the scenes. Like what happens? How does the anchor deliver news? How is she a regular person? And what are her thoughts on how all these things work?
Right.
What I also noticed, like in your, and maybe it's just part of like, part of like the sort of the timbre in your voice. You have the anchor voice.
Oh,
but has that been developed?
It's funny because people, when I tell them I'm from Texas, they're like, "But you don't sound like it." I'm like, "Well, give me a margarita,
and then you're texting your
and then I'll come
How
back.
How y'all doing?
Right, and then it'll slip out, or get me around my mom. She's got a twang.
But you can hear it. You hear it in her voice.
Yeah.
I hear it in your voice. You're like, "Hello, everybody, Shannon Miller back." It's almost like you can literally, like I can say, and 3, 2, 1, and you're like, "Hello, I'm here with Rich Rockland, and we're in the studio in 12 North Main Street," right? I mean,
and what's so funny? It's like, because even the talent consultants we work with, it's like it comes back to like being real, being authentic, like, and we work on everything from like, if I'm going to really try to pull you in, I'm going to pause a little bit more.
She's doing
I'm
it now. Yeah.
Bring it down a little bit. But it's
amazing.
Like, it's just basic things that you kind of learn.
I mean, there's a part of that, right? It's delivery.
Oh,
and right. You want to tell a compelling story, but I'm sure as like a general assignment reporter, there's a whole, there's a sort of a cadence to it. I don't know if you ever watch Family Guy?
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
And they have that sort of awful, like, everything's awful, but it's funny, right? They have Trisha Takanawa, the reporter.
Yes,
but she's got the reporter cadence, right?
Right.
And then, of course, the guy, who's the guy, the anchor who's obnoxious.
Oh yeah, I forget his name.
And that show makes fun of it. I don't know how they've never been canceled because they're just they annihilate everybody.
Oh yeah.
But it's just so funny. And then of course we have Ron Burgundy, which is,
right.
You guys love that.
Oh
right?
yeah, it's like
red leather,
it's
yellow
funny.
leather.
Oh God. And we talk. We like when we like mess up stuff. We'll like the arsonist had oddly shaped. We'll try to like.
See, here, I love it. You do it.
But yeah, it's funny because like you still want to have what's the word? Authority, right? If I'm talking about something that's really serious, like you got to, like, there's a major fire going on right now and we got to tell you about it. I'm not going to go, oh, hey, you might want to know about something, but we're always practicing it. And I'm always want to be getting better at what I do. And I think that's like the key in so many, just whatever industry you're in. It's like never pretend like you know it all.
It's storytelling. What I do is, again, I don't work with juries because divorce work is judges only.
Yeah.
But I have to tell a story to the judge, right? And it's part of it is storytelling, and obviously advocacy. So it's a lot different than what you do. But one of the best things I tell my kids is learn how to speak well, like learn how to, because the people they view that as authoritative and confidence, and you can say things in a way that's important and people will listen.
Oh yeah.
So I do see that, like, but and so you're limited a lot to the teleprompter, but you can also sort of go off script, right?
Oh yeah.
You have total flexibility.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it can happen at a moment's notice.
Well, especially if somebody calls in, like, we've got the fire marshal on, right?
Oh yeah.
And you've got to be able to
you got to go
ask those questions, and
you got to go. Yeah, like we had the campus protest happening at UCLA a couple weeks ago, and we had these incredible live images coming out from our sister station KNBC, and it was like literally the LAPD on the line there with the students, and it's like you couldn't. It's that moment as journalists are like, okay, well, I think this is like compelling, regardless of how you feel about it.
It's a compelling
video moment, and it's happening right now. And you have that kind of like gut moment where you're like, producer may have had 10 stories scripted for you in that 5 minutes, but we ended up just staying live on the images. And that comes down with...
Is that vamping or...
Ad-libbing. Ad-libbing and breaking news situations.
And is there somebody in your ear like saying, all right, Shannon, go with this.
There could be. At that day, I knew we would all be on the same page with staying on it. And that's
because you get a sense of what your producer wants.
Like this is kind of an escalated news event. This is not something we see every single day. So you kind of have that comes with experience and time. You're like, this is not the run of the mill, festival that we're talking about. Right. This is a big news, moment.
Yeah.
And so, you kind of have that moment. And that day I kind of went, with my gut. And of course, Heidi and I riffed off back and forth with each other, talking over those live images. And thankfully everyone else was, we were all on the same page, our director and our producer. But sometimes you don't even have a moment to go, you still want us to stay on this right now? Are we
you do remember those moments sometimes that you're like, hold on, we're just getting word now.
Right. The holding of the ear thing. I don't know why people still do that.
It's almost like when the person's in the studio and they're singing and they're holding their ear,
right.
one ear. What are you doing? Come on.
It's too
wow.
funny.
So, all right. So as we're wrapping up, I wanted to ask you, we talked about this in the beginning. What do you think, what do you think builds that sort of unique one-way relationship, right? I mean, it's a relationship, but again, unlike any other relationship, because you're not, usually with a relationship, you have interaction, you have text, you're a Facebook friend, something.
Mm-hmm.
There's some sort of connection there, but, there's a million people that see you that never may even see you in real life. So what do you think has made you so good at connecting and building that relationship with them? What do you think of the skill set or the talent or the what's inside you that helps build that? What do you think? What do you think it is?
First of all, it's so not about me, right? My face is up there, my voice is coming out, but it has nothing to do with me.
You think that?
It's being a part of something that's a lot bigger. We're so small when you think about it. What we do.
You think about the size of the universe.
What we do is just, every single, we may think our world is, something, but what it comes down to is just, I think, being someone or a vessel, whatever you want to call it, that in the craziness of what's going on, people every single day are dealing with God only knows what, challenges, but being that kind of steady, calm voice of here's what's going on today. Here's what you can be assured of that's happening, whether it's good or bad. And I just think being able to be real, we go back to that, what we were saying earlier, I think people they can spot a fake.
Yeah.
And, sometimes you just got to trust, everything that's contributed to who you are. There's a reason why, you were born to the set of the parents that you were born to, or you became friends, or someone walked into your life, or someone else had an influence on you. All of that's a combination of everything you need to be, and find your place in this world. And I think when you own your authenticity and yourself, and I think we're always working on that, right? I don't think everyone reaches I've reached full confidence capacity, right?
I'm working on it until you die,
right? I'm as confident as I think I could ever be, and I think there's, and then obviously in the TV news world where there's a lot of big personalities, it's not about cockiness, it's about the confidence and being able to deliver something, a service, information to people in an authentic way. And, it takes some finessing, and I'm always working at it, and I always want to try to be better at it.
Wow. That's a fantastic answer. That's one of the best answers anyone's ever given me.
I'm glad.
No, that's great. That's really thoughtful. And I do think, I'll disagree a little bit. I think that there is a component that because there are people that are better at it than others and gain more, viewers. I think you're excellent at it. And I think part of it is, I think some people are, more authentic than others, right? And there's certain people that you have to strike the balance between, I think, delivering the objective news and showing a side of you, but also you also have to you have to be relatable, but you also have to sort of be almost a little bit untouchable because you're like you're the news person. You can't just be your Aunt Jackie giving you the news.
Right.
This is Shannon, and I trust her, and but I also can relate to her because it feels like I can have a coffee with her, and she reminds me of my sister, or my coworker, and so you're right. It's an amalgamation of all of those things, and it just has to hit right.
Yeah,
and of course, it's all changing now with social media. You have to have an active online presence. I'm sure that's part of your contract. They're like, you got to be out there. You have to be tweeting, or you have to be Instagramming.
And I'll admit, I struggle with it because I'm like, I don't assume that people like want to know like what I'm doing, but they do.
And especially the younger generation. And I tell my colleagues this. I said, look, I'm 40. I think someone told me the other day, Julie, I said the wrong age, like 2 different shows. I'm going to be 49 in July. So I'm
48 rising.
48 rising.
Right, there you go.
48 rising. So I'm a Gen Xer.
Okay.
And so, and I tell them as I'm building this business, right? I have young kids, so I'm going to be doing this for a while. I have Julie here, who's a Gen Zer, and I tell them, I said, if you're not marketing to those folks, you're not having your content out there and TikTok, all these different things, you're going to be out of business in 10 years.
Oh yeah.
Because it's not like the people get their referrals and they find you and they build the connection that way. And so you have to be doing that kind of work. And if I were a news director and I brought you on board, I said, and I saw somebody that brought on a huge social media presence, I'm like, that's the person we want. That's who's going to bring in the future people. Because the news is going to change. The younger folks aren't putting on a TV.
Yeah.
They're going to see you on a different platform. We can still make money that way, but you have to be doing that.
Yeah.
And so it's hard because you have an ever-evolving media landscape. You have changing norms. You have social media things. And you're at a very interesting time where you have to build that because, there's still boomers that are, watching the TV. The Gen Zers, not so much. I mean, Julie, do you watch TV? Yeah, right.
Absolutely
so that's what I'm saying.
not. No, I don't.
Do you think there will be a point in your life where you could be interested in local news?
Yeah, maybe you get older.
Right. Okay.
I don't really like streaming shows anymore and stuff like that. I do enjoy the news. Not too much, though.
See, I think it's also like as you get older, too, right? I think there's a time maybe, where you have older, it might mean something.
It does. There is you settle down.
But you don't want to think about taxes now, taxes, right?
But there is that element, like you settle down and like you care more about the community. Maybe you have family, you have kids. Yes. And so that matters more to you. Like where I live, what's happening where I live, you want to be informed. Whereas, you're 22 years old, 23 years old, and you're like, all right, you have other stuff to worry about. Your brain's not fully developed. You're figuring it out. But that's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And so finally, what the sort of back to the I'll call my gal guy situation, how important have those relationships? Obviously, the relationship that you built for a very short moment got you to Fayetteville.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, right.
But in terms of your developing stories and building those relationships, how critical has it been to your success as a journalist?
It's huge. It's huge. One story I didn't tell you about in my time in Little Rock, Arkansas. So that's where I was before I came up here.
Right.
It's the capital city of Arkansas, which, by the way, like if you ever... People get Arkansas and Alabama up in New England mixed up. They're
really?
They're like, when you were in Alabama, I'm like, no, it's Arkansas. But anyway, great state if you ever want to go venture down there.
I've been to almost every state. It's the one state.
Yeah, it's fun. It's beautiful too.
Yeah, I heard it's nice.
A lot of culture, a lot of great eats. You'd love a restaurant list.
Yeah.
I'll give you the restaurant list.
Yeah.
One of the biggest stories I ever covered was a real estate agent who had gone missing and was kidnapped and murdered. And I remember at the time that, it's like you have those, again, that gut check moment. We all have that. Whatever industry you're in, you're like, this is something I need. This feels like, and I go back to, it's bigger than me, right? It deserves light. And I remember my agent, who I've been with now for 10 plus years, was like, former journalist. He's like, now who's going to be the one to get the jailhouse interview, right? Like, oh, I'm like, hadn't thought of, it's going to be you. You're going to get it. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, it is going to be me. So old fashioned, write a jailhouse letter, go through all the proper channels. I end up landing the interview with the murder suspect.
Does he write to you and say, I'll take it?
He wrote me back. He said he would be interested in talking. I'd done a couple perp walks with him, which in Arkansas, they do perp walks a little bit differently. They let you have full access to them.
What do you have to say,
yeah, you're right up on them. You're walking, brushing their sweat off of them as you're moving on and they're putting them in the van. But he agreed to do the interview. And what I learned from that moment was how powerful just seeking the truth can be, because there were statements that he gave me in that interview that he never gave to investigators. And at the time I got a lot of like pushback on like, well, why would you give this guy airtime? Why would we want to hear from him? It's like, the truth of the matter is, if he's the reason all this happened, and there's opportunities that to speak to him or ask questions that even the victim's family can't even do that at this point. So anyway, I ended up getting asked by the prosecution to come and testify and be a witness. Yes. Yeah. And, talk about statements that he made. And it turns out that story that I got, the get that I call it, in our world, Dateline was impressed with the fact that they couldn't even get access to him at that point. And so I was asked by the producer on the story to sit down and talk about my interview with him. So as time went on, I come up to, that was my first Dateline appearance, across from Andrea Canning, who, by the way, is like just fantastic. And I still keep in touch with her. We just did a podcast, like pilot episode that she's now going to launch in the podcast world too. So she, the producer, I kept in touch with, and then lo and behold, when the Jennifer Dulos story happened up here, like, hey, by the way, you may not know, I'm in Connecticut now. I'd love to help you on this on the story.
So they were like, you're our lady.
Yeah. So I think it just goes back to, following your gut, following your instinct. Like, if something's telling you to, like, whether, it's something, if you're a faith person, like a higher power, or just your gut instinct, to make a call, to knock on a door, to go get something, the extra step really is like the extra mile really pays off in so many ways. And I just think that when you become that person in whatever space you're in, the payoff will happen when people start coming to you. You become the gal or the guy,
That's fantastic. Well, Shannon, thank you so much. I enjoy our friendship. And,
yes, me too.
And your you delivering a good product to the community. And thank you for doing it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.